Before we dive into today's episode, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to stay updated with our latest insights.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the CTSS Academy podcast. The energy is electric. The crowd is alive. Let's dive into greatness. We're champions strong.
Before we start the show, don't forget to check our new ebook, Kill All Bugs, Learn Software Testing in One Day. For a limited time, it's only $9.99. Links in description.
Imagine this. You step into the lobby of a major VC building, you're waiting for the elevator, doors open, and inside is the one angel investor you absolutely need to meet. You step in, the door closes, and you realize you have maybe, 10 seconds before they get off on their floor? What do you say?
And welcome to the deep dive. That exact high-stakes scenario is what our sources today are all about. The pressurized art of the investor presentation.
Right.
We've been analyzing sources that detail both that ruthless economy of the elevator pitch and then the rigid functional architecture of the full pitch deck that has to follow.
And our mission today is really to take you inside that structure. We want to distill the knowledge you need to capture millions, first in those critical 10 seconds, and then in the room.
Yeah, and the sources, they make one thing incredibly clear. That 10-second constraint, it's not just some hyperbolic goal, it's a diagnostic tool.
A diagnostic tool, I like that. So what is it diagnosing?
It's the ultimate test of refinement. I mean, if you cannot articulate your business clearly enough to get that investor's card before those doors open again,
Yeah.
the sources argue the core concept itself just isn't fully baked. You haven't just failed at communications, you've probably failed conceptually.
Okay, let's unpack that because that's a really powerful idea, a conceptual failure. Why does bad communication mean the idea itself is flawed?
Because clarity forces you to confront the mechanics. Most entrepreneurs, and this is the number one failure point our sources highlight, they speak way too abstractly.
They focus on the feeling, the big mission.
Exactly. The feeling, the potential, not the functional process. It's what we're calling the abstract trap.
Okay, so let's make this concrete. Give us the example from the source material. The Party Square app.
Okay, so you've built this new social planning app, Party Square. The investor asks, what do you do? And the abstract answer, the trap is an application that will provide the party of your dreams.
Right. And the investor just hears noise. I mean, they hear ambition, sure, but they can't picture it. They can't see how you make money, who your users are.
There's no mental image.
Yeah.
And that's the conceptual failure you mentioned. If you can only describe the feeling of the product, it probably means you haven't locked down the value proposition.
Or the unit economics or the monetization strategy. You're still selling a dream, not a blueprint.
Exactly. The investor needs to visualize the transaction instantly. The solution, which the sources just hammer home, has to be a concise, concrete, and impactful sentence.
A high-definition image, not a watercolor painting.
That's a perfect way to put it.
So, okay, if that abstract pitch is a failure, how does the Party Square entrepreneur pivot? What's the winning pitch in that elevator?
It has to sound something like this.
Yeah.
We are a marketplace that enables verified university students to find the nearest party with the most suitable budget.
Whoa, okay, that is a fundamentally different conversation. You've introduced 3 elements that define the whole business model. It's a marketplace, so I'm already thinking commission or fees.
Yep.
It targets university students, a specific, dense demographic, and the value is proximity and price.
Yeah.
You've solved a real pain point in one sentence.
You've given them the functional description, and the investor's brain just instantly goes to scale, demographics, monetization.
So the key takeaway here is that clarity is currency. It's what buys you the meeting.
It's the moment the investor realizes you're selling a system, not just an idea.
Okay, so a successful elevator pitch gets you that follow-up meeting. We're moving from the 10-second adrenaline rush to, say, the 45-minute deep dive. You're in the room, now what?
Now the full presentation, the pitch deck, has to flow. And the sources provide a really meticulous step-by-step formula for this.
This is the anatomy of confidence.
It is, and it has to flow sequentially. You're essentially building a legal and financial case, one slide at a time. You skip a step, the whole thing just collapses in the investor's mind.
So walk us through this mandatory 7-step structure. What's the very first move?
Step 1 is the introduction. Your logo, your brand, and critically,
That one-sentence summary.
exactly, that refined elevator pitch we just perfected, it grounds the entire conversation.
And then immediately after you hit them with the pain point.
Absolutely. Step 2, the problem. You have to define clearly and unemotionally the pain point your business solves. The investor has to believe a large group of people is suffering and, willing to pay for relief.
Because if the problem isn't real, nothing else you say matters. For Party Square, it wasn't just people want to have fun. It was more specific.
Much more specific. It was that they struggle with organization, venue discovery, budget alignment, all that friction.
Which leads you perfectly into step 3.
The solution. You present your unique answer to that problem, your magic wand that makes the pain go away. And this isn't just showing a screenshot of the app. It's explaining why your approach is better, faster, or cheaper.
And once they know what you do and how you do it, you pivot to the future. Step 4.
That's market potential, or total addressable market, PAM. This is where the presentation shifts from sort of narrative storytelling to pure financial opportunity.
Okay, I want to challenge the sequence here for a second. If the problem is so clear and the solution is so unique, why not just jump to the ask? Why does the TAM slide have to interrupt that flow?
That's a great question, and it's all about establishing gravity. The problem and solution slides, they prove you have a good idea.
Right, a good idea.
But the TAM slide, that proves you have a scalable business. Without the sheer size of the market, the investor's just funding a niche hobby, not a massive enterprise.
So you have to prove the ceiling is high before you talk about the money.
You have to.
Yeah.
It justifies the massive effort.
Okay, that makes sense. So step 5.
Revenue model. How do you actually make money? Be precise. Then step 6 is the ask. How much capital do you need? What exactly will you spend it on? And what strategic support are you asking for?
And the final piece of the puzzle, the anchor.
Step 7. The team. Investors are fundamentally betting on people. You've proven the market exists, the product works. But this last slide has to convince them that you, this specific team, are the ones to make it happen.
That tight structure is the roadmap. Okay, let's zoom in on step 4, total addressable market. The sources say this is where the math speaks.
It has to. You can tell a beautiful story, but if the quantitative analysis is weak, the pitch dies right here.
So TAM has to show not just that people could buy your product, but how many people will buy it and for how much.
Precisely.
Let's use the Party Square example from the sources. The calculation needs a specific defendable audience. Who did they target?
They define their target audience very narrowly, but also very densely. 18 to 24-year-olds living in the metro areas of Ankara and Istanbul.
Okay, why so specific? Why not just say all young people in the country?
Because a good TAM calculation is focused on what is immediately reachable, what's feasible to penetrate in the next 3 to 5 years. It's not your ultimate global fantasy.
It's about credibility.
Total credibility. By focusing on major university hubs, they isolate an audience with high density, high digital literacy, and, disposable income for social stuff. It makes their numbers believable.
So they're presenting their serviceable obtainable market, the SOM, as their immediate TAM. That's smart. How big was that market?
The source quantified that segment at 14 million people. Now, here's where the critical assumption comes in. The penetration rate.
Let's talk about that. They used a 10% penetration rate. For a brand new app, 10% of 14 million users. That sounds aggressive. How do you justify that to a skeptical investor?
You can't just pull 10% out of thin air. You have to anchor it to data.
Okay.
So the justification probably came from one of 3 places. Maybe a competitor analysis showing similar apps capture 20% of this demographic, or maybe they had proprietary beta testing data showing a strong viral loop.
Or a low enough cost per acquisition to make it feasible with the money they're asking for.
Exactly. Without that anchor, 10% is just a dream, not a projection.
I see. And then the calculation is applied to that usage. So walk us through the final math that gives the investor the cent of money.
Okay, so the full formula they presented was 14 million target users. Assume 10% penetration, that's 1.4 million active users.
Okay.
If each of those users spends, say, 10 Turkish lira per month on the platform, the potential annualized revenue is 140 million TL.
And that is the shift. It's from a big number of people, 14 million, to a specific financial return, 140 million TL. It moves the discussion from what if to how fast.
Exactly. How fast can we hire the team to capture that 10%? The math must be detailed, defensible, and conservative enough to build that confidence.
And this ties right back to the revenue model, step 5.
Huh.
Why is defining that mechanism so critical?
Because the revenue model tells the investor about the entire risk profile of the business. Is it a subscription model?
Predictable, recurring revenue. Investors love that.
They do, but it often requires a huge marketing spend up front. Or is it commission-based that ties your income to user activity, but you have transaction fees, regulatory risks?
Or advertising, which means you might have to burn cash for years before you can monetize.
Precisely. So just saying we make money is nowhere near enough. You have to show you've stress-tested the unit economics for profitability.
We've spent a lot of time on the structure, the math. Let's shift to execution. Moving from this, theoretical 7-step deck to the cold, hard reality of pitching.
Yeah, the sources have a really powerful anecdote about this. They point out that the flow we just laid out looks deceptively easy on paper.
But startup life is anything but. Tell us about the sheer scale of effort that goes into perfecting this.
The entrepreneur in the source material, they noted that they pitched their own venture to 150 different investors.
150.
A mixture of domestic and foreign. 150 presentations, each one a high-stakes performance.
Just thinking about that volume, pitching 150 times, that has to fundamentally change how you see your own product. It turns you into a market researcher.
Oh, absolutely. And the sources highlight this. The presentation itself had to be updated and refined 7 times over the course of those 150 pitches.
7 full iterations.
7. Think about that learning curve. Every nuanced question, every furrowed brow, and especially every single no answer. It all became data to sharpen the presentation.
So what was changing in those 7 versions? It wasn't just fixing typos, was it?
Oh, far from it. The iterations were changing the underlying business logic. For example, if 30 investors in a row question your competitive analysis slide.
Iteration 1 is probably a complete rebuild of that analysis.
Right. If 50 investors say your cost of user acquisition seems too high for your revenue model, iteration 2 means you have to go back and fix the model, or even redefine your target demographic to one that's cheaper to reach.
So the feedback wasn't really about the slides. It was about the weaknesses the slides were exposing in the actual business plan. The pitch deck is just a mirror.
It's a mirror reflecting your internal readiness. Precisely. If investors keep asking, what if Google launches a competitor? You don't just memorize a better answer. You go back and iterate your strategy to build a real competitive moat, and then you design a slide to explain it.
So that willingness to face rejection, to turn a no into actionable data, that's the key lesson here for you, the listener. Don't expect your first deck to be perfect.
Not even close. You have to treat it as a living process. It demands getting out there, pitching, getting rejected, and constantly updating based on that cold, hard scrutiny.
Okay, let's bring this all together. We started with the absolute necessity of that 10-second hook, ditching the abstract for a clear, defined, functional concept.
And we walk through that essential 7-step skeleton that guides the investor's thinking, from the problem all the way to the team.
And we really emphasize that the math, the TAM calculation, has to be specific, defensible, and based on justified assumptions to give that scent of a real financial opportunity.
And finally, we learn that perfection is an illusion. The real journey requires the humility to pitch 150 times and the diligence to update your material 7 times or more, embracing every no as necessary feedback.
As you refine your own pitch, or even when you're evaluating a new venture, embrace that difficulty.
Remember what the source material concluded about this whole process. If this job were easy, everyone would do it. Your willingness to endure the rejection and continually refine the logic, that's what separates an interesting idea from a fundable business that's truly ready to scale.
Hey, yo! Haven't you checked out our new book yet? Link in description.
Thanks for listening. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe and leave us a review. It helps more people find the show. See you in the next one.
CT